Guess you didn't expect this gun to be so good, did you? The Bluescreen isn't just about high damage, it also brings excellent crop control. We've put together a guide that does not only give you multiple build options, but also helps you dominate in different situations. First, let's start with the exotic talent of the Bluescreen. At first, the mechanics can feel overwhelming, especially having to use skills to trigger the various procs, but it's simpler than you might think. Here's how the Bluescreen exotic LMG works. Every time you hit enemies, you apply stacks to them. When you use a skill, those stacks are consumed and turn into status effects like Disrupt. The more stacks you build, the more effects you trigger on marked enemies. And here's the key. If you kill an enemy at max stacks, the attack triggers automatically. So Bluescreen isn't just about damage, it's about controlling enemies. At its core, the gameplay loop is you build 50 stacks, get the kill, spread the effects in a 10-meter radius around stacked and killed enemies. Alternatively, you can trigger the effects by using a skill, but that's a bit clunky, so we recommend just going for kills and only triggering the effects with a skill if needed. Build 1. Bleed Bluescreen. Let's start with the Bleed build. This setup balances Bleed, Disrupt and Disorient and is especially strong in group play. The build is centered around the ongoing directive gear set. Here's why the ongoing directive gear set is one of the best status effect builds. When you kill enemies with status effects, you generate special hollow point ammo. This ammo causes bleed on hit and bleeding enemies take extra damage. Plus, your whole team benefits, making this set amazing for group play. The key is to keep applying status effects like bleed, burn or poison to keep the ammo flowing. So if you like spreading chaos and boosting team damage, ongoing directive is a must try. Alright, let's break down the full setup. For this build we are running the Catalyst mask. Let me quickly explain how this works. Chemical Agent builds stacks from status effects. 1 for enemies, 2 if you're affected. At max stacks, if you kill a status affected enemy, you get bonus armor and enhanced reload speed for 5 seconds. Next up, we've got the ongoing directive chest. This increases our weapon damage amplification from 20 to 50%. With the chest out of the way, let's take a look at the holster. We are running the ongoing directive holster. Let's move on to the backpack and see why it's so important for this build. We're using a defensive brand set here like Palisade with the Wicked talent. Thanks to the Wicked talent, every time we apply a status effect, our weapon damage gets a nice boost of 18% for 20 seconds. Next up, the gloss. For the gloss, we are using ongoing directive. Last but not least, the knee pads. This completes the ongoing directive set and ties the whole build together. If you need a bit more survivability, feel free to replace weapon damage with armor on one of your gear pieces. Specialization recommendations. If you're running solo, Gunner is the way to go. And paired with the Palisade backpack, you get 20% armor on kill for extra survivability. For group play, we recommend the Survivalist specialization. Your teammates gain 10% bonus damage on targets affected by status effects. Tip: to activate ongoing directive right at the start of a fight, use the Banshee Pulse. It instantly applies the status effect to multiple enemies, allowing you to trigger hollow point ammo immediately and keep your damage flowing from the beginning. This Bleed Bluescreen build is especially strong in groups since your teammates also benefit from hollow point ammo. With the Bleed build out of the way, it's time to check out build 2. This one is all about stacking for big personal damage and taking down enemies faster. The tipping scale set is currently one of the best sets to combine with LMGs. Every time you shoot, you build stacks, up to 50. Each stack gives you weapon handling and critical hit damage, but if you stop shooting, you lose stacks quickly. The key is to keep firing and suppress enemies, because you don't lose stacks while they are pinned. With the chest piece you can reach even more stacks, and the backpack further boosts critical hit damage. Since this build focuses on personal damage, it's perfect for solo play, but there's also a strong group alternative. First, let's take a look at the solo build. We're starting off with the Tipping Scale mask. Next, let's talk about the chest. You can either run Tipping Scale for full synergy or go for a brand set like Palisade, Bellstone or Keeler Guard with Obliterate. The Tipping Scale chest works great in some situations, but if your content makes it hard to fully benefit from 75 stacks, a brand set chest with Obliterate can give a more consistent damage output. With the chest set chosen, let's move on to the holster. We are running the named holster Salvo by Unit Alloys, one of my favorite DPS options, thanks to that flat 10% rate of fire increase. It might not sound like much at first, but on LMG bins it significantly boosts your overall damage. Now that we've covered the holster, it's time to check out the backpack. For this build we are going with the Tipping Scale backpack, which increases crit damage from 4% to 7%. Honestly, this piece is a no-brainer. It makes the entire build work and really improves your damage output. With the backpack in place, let's talk gloves. You've got two solid options here. Overducks amplify your damage by 30%, but there's a catch. It only applies when shooting the lowest tier enemies in the combat area. Alternatively, you can swap to Contractor's gloves. These give a strong damage to armor bonus, especially effective if your weapon doesn't already have it. And with the Petrov brand set, you get an extra 10% LMG damage, making them perfect for maximizing firepower. Finally, let's round out the build with the knee pads. We're going with the tipping scale knee pads to complete the build. As mentioned before, you can turn this setup with a few tweaks into a support build. This support focused crew build is built around the Beacon exotic chest. It boosts your team's critical hit damage by 30%, skill efficiency by 15%, and gives 2% armor regen to you and your teammates, as long as they are within 10 meters. Positioning is key. Stay close to your teammates to get the full benefit of the Beacon chest buffs. To strengthen your survivability, you should reroll 2 pieces to armor instead of weapon damage. When it comes to specialization, I'd recommend Gunner for solo play. It gives you a faster reload, increased rate of fire, and extra armor on kill, perfect for staying alive while dishing out damage. For crew play, I'd recommend Survivalist. This gives your team more outgoing healing and boosts damage against status-affected enemies, making it ideal for supporting your squad. HEARTBREAKER is a solid alternative unmatched in survivability compared to the other two builds. Every time you land a headshot, enemies get pulsed, and when you shoot them, you build stacks. Each stack gives you bonus armor and extra damage, meaning the more you fight, the stronger and tankier you become. With the chest piece, you can go up to 100 stacks, and the backpack further increases your armor. But there's a catch. You must keep shooting. Stop and you lose everything. Starting off with the HEARTBREAKER mask, when it comes to the chest, you've got a few options, depending on your playstyle. But Spotter or Obliterate are definitely the way to go. With the chest set, let's move on to the holster. We're running the Salvo holster, giving you a solid rate of fire boost to maximize DPS. Next up, the backpack. We are using the HEARTBREAKER backpack, which increases bonus armor from 1% to 2%, giving you a bit more survivability while staying in the fight. For gloves, we are sticking with the HEARTBREAKER gloves. And finally, the HEARTBREAKER knee pads complete the setup, rounding out the solo DPS build. The HEARTBREAKER set already gives you a good number of blues, so maybe it's worth re-rolling 1 or 2 parts to red, but in my opinion, this is absolutely personal preference. For this build, I recommend running Gunner. The Banshee Pulse provides excellent crowd control and automatically pulses enemy, which fits perfect with the setup. Bluescreen. Last but not least, the Bluescreen is an absolute monster when combined with the Negotiator's Dilemma. With this set, your critical hits mark up to 3 enemies. When you deal crit damage to one marked target, the other marked targets take 60% of that damage as well. This basically turns your build into an AoE damage machine, especially in group fights. On top of that, every time a marked enemy dies, you gain an additional 2% critical hit damage, making you stronger over time. And with the backpack, the shared damage becomes even more powerful, increasing from 60 to 112%. We start with the Negotiator's Dilemma mask, which forms the foundation of the build. Next, let's move on to the chest. We are using Palisade with Obliterate to maximize both survivability and damage output. With the chest set, we'll take the Negotiator's Dilemma holster. Now let's talk about the backpack. We're using the Negotiator's Dilemma backpack, which further boosts shared crit damage on marked enemies from 60% to 112%. We move on to the gloves. We're running Overdox gloves here to maximize your weapon damage and overall DPS. Finally, the Negotiator's Dilemma's knee pads round out the build. For a bit more toughness, you can swap weapon damage for armor on one of your gear set pieces. For this build, I recommend running Gunner. Especially since we're running the Palisade chest, this gives you up to 20% armor on kill, making the build much more durable. The Bluescreen is definitely a jack of all trades with a lot of different use cases. It's not just about dealing damage, it's the utility that makes it so satisfying to use. That's why the Bluescreen is one of my favorite weapons in the game. What's your favorite Bluescreen build? Let us know down in the comments. Hope you enjoyed the video. Likes, subscriptions and follows are always appreciated. They help more than you know. Now, here's some gameplay showing the Bluescreen in action. See you in the next one. Bye!